Hello, everyone. Today we're going to discuss the 1962 playoff match between Keres-Geller and Paul Keres. This took place in Curacao, 1962. Now, there's a big tournament in Curacao from May 2nd to June 26th, and this was to determine the challenger to their reigning champion, Mikhail Botvinnik. This tournament was won um, by a half a point by Tigran Petrosian. And tied for equal second and third were Keres and Geller. And so, therefore, a playoff match was decided to determine who would be automatically seeded into the next candidates final. So the winner would just automatically be seeded in and wouldn't have to, say place high in the tournament, the next interzonals or whatever. So the match was very important. Secondly, at the time, it wasn't Botvinnik had not decided if he was even going to defend the title. So the playoff had another implication. If Botvinnik had decided not to defend his world championship title against Petrosian, then Petrosian would actually be playing either Geller or Keres, and the winner of that match would become world champion. So the match was very important at the time. Just real quick, let me just give you a rundown of who was in this tournament at Curacao. You had Petrosian, who was the winner. Then you had Keres and Geller, equal tie for second and third. Then you had the young Bobby Fischer, okay, who did good, scored 14 points. Again, the winner had 17.5. Petrosian, Geller, Keres had 17. So Fischer came in fourth with 14, and but he wasn't ready at this point. For those those the big guns. He had three draws and a loss against Petrosian in their matchup. Um, he also lost his match 2-1 against Geller, and he lost his match 2-1 against Victor Korchnoi. So it was a great learning experience for him. Also, Korchnoi had came in fifth, followed by Benko. Tal had a terrible tournament, finishing last with Miroslav Filip, and they each had 7 points. Okay. Now, what was important about this match um, was that the match could not end. The match could not end in a tie or a draw or anything like that because Geller held the tie breaks. So it was 8 game match, but if it was just drawn at the end, then Geller would go on, um, would be seeded into the next candidate cycle. So Keres basically just had to win the match outright, right? He couldn't draw. He had to win. All right. Okay. So now we're getting to um, this is I believe game two in the playoffs. Let me just make sure. Actually, it's game three. Okay, so the first 2 games were drawn, and I want to go right to the key position. This just show what kind of pressure these players are on. Because, like I said, I'm just gonna do one video on this match, but I just want to show you. So this game right here, right after this Nimzo Indian occurred on the board. Just want to go to the key position here. Fast forward, we see Keres playing dynamic fashion, and it's an isolated pawn, but it's passed on the board. And basically, the question is whether that pawn is going to be weak or strong. Of course, isolated pawn must be escorted by pieces, and so we see the battle here. To eliminate, White wants to eliminate the defenders of this isolated pawn. Black needs to keep it protected as long as possible and push it down the board, right? Or at least use it as a decoy at some point. because that's one of the great aspects of these lone passers too, is they become great decoys. If you can't, push them up the board, you can deflect or distract your opponent's pieces, and trying to stop it, and then you go and attack somewhere else. Again, I just want to get to the critical position here. Oh, I forgot to say, Geller here has the white pieces. Keres is black. So you see this struggle against the pawn here. You see how Keres knocked the knight away. Knight goes to d2, trying to hold up the pawn. And you can see all this basic strategy. Rook d3. Again, the idea is to eliminate the defenders, because remember, isolated pawns have no pawns by their side to help them or protect them. Only thing that can protect the isolated pawn is pieces. So one of the main strategies is to eliminate the pieces which protect the pawn. Black has to play dynamically, right, to not only keep the pawn protected, but to create diversion so that the opponent cannot concentrate all his efforts on the pawn. So we see here, of course, with this move f4, it would be a big blunder to play e takes e4. Look at where the rook is. Look where the king is. Opposition is dangerous, and black would be winning immediately after this discovered check. So rook takes d5, knight takes d5, e takes f4. Now that the rook is gone, check. And now king f3 is played, and Keres is generating just enough play to keep white off balance. White cannot just snatch that pawn. Okay, so check from Keres, king f3, and now knight d3, attacking the rook on c1 and protecting the pawn. Rook goes to c4, and now h5. Here's the critical position in this game. Okay, now in this position, Geller under a lot of pressure. Now I don't know if he was under time pressure here. It's move 35, so he might have been under some time pressure. He plays the move rook e4, following the general strategy. Remember, he wants to trade. He wants to trade pieces. At least he's offering the trade of pieces. Okay, he's offering the trade of pieces. Of course, Keres would not want to trade pieces here, but this move turned out to be a blunder, one move blunder, and I think I'm gonna make a video one day just on one move blunders. This move turned out to be a blunder because of the cramped position of the king, and Keres would set a lot of traps like this in this game. Notice with the pawn on h5, with that pawn at h5, it eliminates some escape possibilities for the king. G4's the king can't go to g4. The knights have f4 covered. So in general, the white king is pretty restricted here. So what happens after rook e4, Keres simply played knight e1, and Geller resigned. The reason why is because after, let's say, king e2, right, that's the only other move available, then simply knight c3, fork. Okay, and after king takes e1, then just knight takes e4, or king e3, knight takes e4, followed by knight takes g2 check. So for instance, king at the knight c3, let's say king e3, just pick up the exchange. Okay, and black is winning. King takes e1, and then again you just snap up the rook, winning. So this one move blunder here, rook e4, cost Geller this game right here. But since it's a match, there's chance for Geller to come back. So again, after rook e4 and knight e1, that was all she wrote, and Geller had to resign. Now, of course, better was just playing a move like bishop d6. And then of course 91 is not going to work here. Okay, there's nothing, there's no fork, anything. King just goes to G3. Now black still has chances, of course, but white has some chances too. I mean, black's pawns are weak statically in general, so black has to maintain this activity. So it's some dynamic equality. Maybe black is slightly better because of activity right now, but the game is a long way from over. After rook e4, the game was just over. So Keres was up 1 game to nothing. Next 2 games were drawn, and that brings us to this game right here, where Keres now has the white pieces. Remember, he had the black pieces before. And we're going to zoom through this game and get to, again, the critical position. Geller has the black pieces. He opts for Benoni. And now this is not your modern Benoni. This is known as your Czech Benoni. Okay? With the pawn structure decided early in the game. A lot of people underestimate this as black. White players, right? Because they think it's like an inferior version. It's a very tough nut to crack. You play a strong player against this. I mean, yes, black takes on a cramped position, but it's not something. It's not like unsound. Like you could just overrun the position. Okay, it's simple to play too for black, and a lot of players at lower levels go wrong as far as like determining, the strategy and organization of the pieces here. So let's say generally, again, we're not going to get into the game. I just want to get to the critical position. But generally, the play is going to transfer to the flanks as the center is all locked up. White has 2 major breaks. One is F4 and one is B4. Black has 2 major breaks, B5 and F5. So sometimes a player choose one or the other, or sometimes he'll choose both of them. All right. So here with 98, it looks like black is wants to play F5 at some point. So with Queen D3, Keres is playing against that idea. Now C7, and again, there's the idea of playing B5. And like I said, sometimes both ideas are played or attempted. So it's a lot of maneuvering, a lot of strategy involved. F6, Bishop D2, Rook B8. And so now you see the transfer. Now black wants to play B5. Keres stops that. See, the idea is to keep the pieces on the board, keep black as cramped as possible. And he's 4. And notice how Keres has his quote-unquote bad bishop, which would be this one, on a nice diagonal. Because he's ready to trade off for this one or invade this square if the opportunity arises. It's very difficult for black to organize his pieces, and this is why white has a slight advantage. White's advantage consists of space on space right now. Okay, space, and his pieces are better. And the reason why his pieces are better is because he has more space. They work hand in hand. So if we want to name what the advantages are for white, we could say that he has better development and position of his pieces. Why? Because his domination of the center and space. Okay. He has a couple of weak squares in the black position too, that black always has to be cognizant of. One is E6. Let's just make this move. This would be a great move, right? If you could do this legally in chess. Just knight E6. The other one is C6. You have to be aware of that. Right now, it's not really feasible, or there's no practical way that black can really get to those squares. The only piece black has to worry about getting there is this bishop. But nevertheless, just for the record, those squares are kind of weak. Same thing for black. If black could get a piece here, right? That's a weak square for white, and so is this one. But again, how weak is it if you can't really exploit it? But it's just something to keep in mind. Okay. Notice there's really no open lines in the position, so the rooks aren't really at a premium, right? It's open diagonal, and white possesses it. Okay. and of course the material is equal. So when you put all the factors together, we could say that white has an advantage. Not a big advantage, but nevertheless it's an advantage, and it's an advantage that um, has to be cultivated. There's no direct smash breakthrough attack here. King h8, queen f3, and here here white is decided on his breakthrough. F4. He wants to remember I was telling you he could decide on B4 or F4. So he decides to break through with F4, and possibly because it leads to least counterplay for black. If you notice, not all of them, but a lot of the black pieces are congregated on the queen side. So after say b4, and then this exchange takes place, perhaps with the knight coming to c5, black can generate more counterplay than he would say after f4. Needless to say, white still has to worry about pieces coming and using this square. Okay, so this is why you had to be real patient in these type of systems from both sides. Rook f7, and now Keres drops the drops the bishop right in there, and this is a tactical blow. Rook f7 is little suspect. Maybe move like queen e7, a little better, or even rook e8. Again, black can't really take too much action here. He has to kind of wait. His position is not not that good. So here it allows his tactical shot, because if knight takes e6, then there's a fork. So now he loses that square, and that's what he didn't want. Okay, now queen e7. Okay, and now this is of course Geller's idea. Remember what I told you about the open lines? There's really no open lines, so the rook is not as valuable. So Geller's like, take the rook. Okay, I guess if you look at this with the computer will snatch the rook up, but this is like practical chess we're talking about, and I wouldn't take the rook either in this position, right? I'd rather have that bishop. Queen h3, again with the same idea of knight takes, then e takes, king g8. So Geller's like, please take the rook. Now f4, there's the breakthrough, or the attempt at the breakthrough. E takes f4, G takes f4, making sure there's no way that black can use this square. Queen e8, and now finally he takes the rook. Bishop takes f7, queen g3, knight e8, rook e2. A lot of players that play this way is black. This like type of check Benoni system, or real patient players and like to play in a defensive manner, and they like when their opponents try to come and overrun their position. And it's kind of like they wait and wait and wait. Opponent makes a mistake, and then they capitalize on that. It's very hard to play like this against strong players, because real strong players are not usually gonna walk into stuff, But there's exceptions to every rule. So here's one of the strongest players, Keres, the white pieces. Nice position. He's dominating at this point. Queen e7. But the thing is, he's dominating, but he doesn't have like a clear approach, right? He doesn't have a clear way. Right now, he's looking at maybe pushing e5, busting through with the move e5. So he's trying to set that up. Knight c3, knight f3. Okay? Right, setting everything up for this e5 push. Bishop b7. Again, black is not really able to undertake anything. Okay? Knight d1. But at the same time, he has, Keres is not completely sure. It's kind of like he knows, like, man, I'm better, but now what? It's one of those situations. A good plan here is h4. Right? Just trying ripping open the king side. All the pieces over on the queen side. Okay, and that's another advantage about having space, is that you can open up another front, and your pieces are able to get there quickly, or quicker than your opponent. Okay, in other words, white will be able to attack a sector of the board faster than black can defend. Okay. Knight D1, B5. So now black is in serious trouble here, but he has to create some kind of counterplay. Right? It's desperation time. Bishop A5, and this is practically winning for white at this point. Knight E8. Okay, just winning a pawn. Alright, so Geller attacks. Bishop D2. Another good idea, another strong idea is this B4. Right, locking up everything, and then if he takes here, bishop takes B4, and then you see the bishop on opposition with this queen here. And that makes this move, this idea even stronger. Bishop D2, white is still in control, rook A4. Knight H4. And even at this point, it seemed like Keres is kind of not exactly sure what he wants to do. It seems like he's setting up for the E4 break, but then he switches, and now it's like he wants to attack the king directly on the G file. He's still good though. Knight C7. Now he goes Queen B3, attacking the rook. And this is a tactic in a lot of positions that when a player, like if you're in worst position, if you're in the worst position and you can, try to distract the opponent from basically pursuing a straightforward goal, right? Then you're doing good with your counterplay. And this is what Geller has done here. Keres is in the driver's seat here, but what he's doing is just creating distractions whereby you see Keres kind of switching plans. Right, first he's preparing E5, then it's like, okay, I want to attack on the G file, with the knight on H4. Then he's attacking the rook, trying to protect his pawn. It's kind of like he's a little not sure of himself here. All right. Remember that attack is the best form of defense. So yeah, black is definitely worse, but just the fact that he's being active and just creating little puzzles for Keres to solve. All right, making him unsure of himself. And you never know, he could have been in time trouble at this point also. So knight F3. Queen D7. So now you see the counterplay. More counterplay from Geller. As this pawn is threatened here. Now Keres starts an attack on the G file. Rook G2. F5. Right? Now this is a typical Benoni concept. Attacking E4. Look how much pressure there is on the D5 pawn. Okay? So now the pawn's a fixed target. Pawn cannot move, and now the center becomes a big old liability now. Now white wishes he didn't have that center. Just like that in a few moves. Went from dominating to now, it's becoming desperate now for white. F takes E4, knight takes E4, bishop D5, and the tables have turned miraculously. Keres' position just starts falling apart. So in this position, Keres decides to go for the jugular. Right, here's the culmination of his attack on the G file. Keres with the white pieces played the move knight F6. And after bishop takes F6, rook takes G6. This is what he's banking on, right? Look at all the black pieces on the queen side. So he figures while the cat's away, the mice will the mice will play. So while all of Geller's pieces are distracted on the queen side, he is going to attack the king. It almost works. Bishop G7. And then after knight G5, he just resigned because Geller simply would just play the knight G5. Just simply queen takes B2, protecting the bishop and attacking the bishop on D2. If rook E7, same thing. Queen takes B2, protecting the bishop on G7. and let's say knight g5, then just rook a1 check is going to lead to mate. So that had to be a heartbreaking loss for Keres. I mean, just he was dominating, but again, he got distracted. He should have stuck with the one plan. But good job by Geller creating the counterplay. I mean, b5 was necessary, and he was able to distract Keres. This tied up the match. Okay, this tied the match up, and now we're gonna go to our final game. So here it is. It's one apiece, and as I told you, Keres had to win. Right, a draw would not suffice because Geller was ahead on tie breaks at the Keres tournament. So this is Keres with the white pieces versus Geller with all the marbles on the table. So d4, knight f6, and this is for either one right to play for the world championship against Petrosian, or to be automatically seeded into the next cycle of candidates. So a lot was on the table. Geller played e6, knight f3. Will there be a Queen's Indian? Nope. Simple Queen's Gambit decline. Knight c3 and c5. Tarish? No, we get a semi-tarish. So, alright. So knight takes d5, e3. Of course, e4 is very popular. His famous game, was it Polgaevsky Tau? I can't remember. But bishop c4. Knight takes c3. B takes c3. And Geller plays bishop e7. This type of position is it's not the greatest position for. I don't like these type of positions with black. I mean, it's solid, but you're kind of cramped, and sometimes you lack a little activity here. White has nice central advantage. That's his advantage basically, is the pawn preponderance in the center, right, and having that extra space. Okay, black wants to play b7, b6, bishop b7, castle, put his queen like on c7, and then put the rooks on c8 and d8. That's like the basic setup in these type of positions. Let's keep going. I didn't like this move, bishop e7, but I'll show you why later. I feel like it loses the tempo. Castle, now e4, all right? b6, bishop b2, bishop b7, queen e2. Again, white's major plus here is just his big center. Now again, when you have a big center, it has to be mobile. If the center gets stopped, and this goes for any kind of pawn majority on queen side, king side, center on the board, if it gets frozen for any particular reason, it becomes a target and it becomes a liability, because now you can't be active in say pursuing your attack against the king because you have to protect the center, whatever. So mobility is the big key with like any kind of central pawn formations. Right? Black wants to fix it and make it weak. White wants to keep it mobile. So if queen e2 is played, knight e5, bishop d3, rook c8. A lot of times black strategy here is to take on d4 and then try to dominate the c4 square. Right? That's the only reason why that knight can be there posted up like that. Rook a d1, c takes d4, c takes d4. So now strategically black has an issue to deal with, because right now he can't put his knight on c4. The rook on d1 is opposing the queen, which could be dangerous, and black just needs to connect his rooks right now. So it's kind of the question is that Geller's facing here is, where do you put the queen? Okay, what do you do with it? It's kind of hard to find a spot for it. You could go to c7, right? But then you have to worry about maybe rook d1, rook c1. All right. Geller decided to move the bishop again and played b4. Um, I didn't like this move. I felt that the bishop was misplaced. It wasn't attacking anything. Of course, it stops rook fe1, and maybe somewhere down the line he could play a move like this. But Keres finds the energetic continuation here. Keres is fully developed, and he decides to push his mobile center. Hold on, I just want to show you another idea too. Let's see, Queen d6, right? Let's say Queen d6, and let's play a bad move here. This is what I'm talking about, the center getting fixed. So Queen d6, a lot of like weaker players would say, oh, the queen's on d6, and play a move like e5, right? After this, Queen d5, white starts becoming worse. The center gets fixed. You see how the pawns are just kind of locked there? And now, black can just build up an attack here. Notice also, this square c4 comes under control. And I'll just throw in some like random moves. Bishop a1, rook c1, with this general idea, rook fc8. And this is what I mean, that now the white center is more of a liability than a strong center. So Queen d6 is a good continuation. Also, the move Bishop d6. Same idea, with the idea of repositioning the queen to a better square, and then you play a move like Queen e7. Right, all good continuations. Again, back to the game. B4, Bishop b4 was played, and then Keres struck with the powerful move d5. These moves are usually very disruptive to an opponent, both at the board and psychologically. Again, usually if you're black, you try to set up your position where it's d5 proof, right? Basically, if d5 is played, it's bad, right? You have the bishop there on b7, pawn on e6, queen there. Sometimes you have a rook there, so you're not expecting d5. d5, e takes d5, e takes d5, and Geller plays the move Queen e7. Okay. Briefly, if Queen d5, Bishop takes h7 check, winning the queen. If Bishop d5, Queen e5, winning, right? Threatening mate. Right, it's too much. Okay. First is f6, then just Queen h5. Okay, so Queen e7. Rook e8 is a natural move also, but then white can just block the action of that with e5, and then if f6, the white squares become weak. So bishop takes h7, king h7, queen h5, and so on. This is why Geller plays Queen e7, welcoming the trade of queens. Okay. Again, being an attacking player, the isolated pawn, you're not trying to trade anything off. Here, f6 is played, natural looking move. You figure, okay, knight will return to f3, and you just swap queens, and Geller will be on his way, to winning. Instead, Queen h5 was played, threatening checkmate. Of course, h6 is no good after knight g6. Again, look at the light squares. So g6. But then that invites the sacrifice, which Keres was good at. H takes g6. Bishop takes g6. Queen g7. Rook d3. And all the advantages of having the space, having superior center come to light, because now the attack is fast. And look at again Geller's pieces off to the queen side. For instance, what's the knight doing there on a5, and what's the bishop doing there on b4? Bishop tries to race back. f4, right? This cuts off the action of the bishop. because Keres wants to play rook g3, offering to trade the queens. No, thank you. Bishop c5 check. King h8. Rook c7, desperately trying to protect, but this discovered check is too much. If king takes, let me just show you. Then just rook h3, mate. The speed of the attack is too fast. So king f7, but then we see the pawn on e6. Queen e6 check. King g7, and then rook g3 with the same type of idea. If king takes h7, queen takes h3, and if king h6, queen h3 again. So Keres was the winner. Let me just go back to move 18. Instead of f6, a more reasonable defense was f5 here. Although again, white still has an advantage here. But white may have to take more chances here. Queen h5 is possible. And queen e8. And then maybe move like queen f3 or queen h4, something like that. Like white has initiative. White has a better position, but the game's still up for grabs. f6 was just accelerated the situation. So again, let's go back to this position right here. Again, so let me just explain why I felt bishop e7 wasn't, it's not a losing move, of course, but I felt that black could have saved the tempo. So after this exchange, knight takes, b takes, bishop e7 was played. This is move 8. And I like bishop d6. Right? And let's have a sample line here. First of all, let's just deal with this. D takes, b takes, queen takes, just simply knight d8, f6, rook d1, bishop d7. And again, it's pretty much equal right there. Okay, so nobody is worried about that. So after bishop d6, let's just play along the lines that were played in the game. Castles, e4, b6. Remember, we're not worried about e5. We would like the white to fix the center. Bishop b2, bishop b7, right? Queen e2, knight a5. Same as the play in the game, but instead of the bishop being on e7, it's on d6. Rook c8, rook a d1, and now queen c7. Okay, and notice the queen has a place to go, right? The queen has not, white has not swapped off on d4 yet. So h3, h6, and that's just a sample line. Rook f e1 and rook f d8. And black's pieces are more organized in the game. Okay, again, just throw that in there for the fans of e5, and you just simply go back to e7. And then let's say bishop b1 with the idea of lining up the queen on d3 for checkmate. Queen c6, queen d3, g6, bishop c1, bishop f8. And then black is good. Again, the center becomes a liability. Now it has to be monitored, right? It's no longer a flexible, mobile entity. Now it can be attacked and broken down. So now you play a move like c takes d4, c takes d4, and now you have choice of good moves. You can play knight c4 now, right? Taking over this this square. You can even play queen a4, just putting pressure. Okay, so let's say queen a4, queen e2, knight c4. Okay, and now you can see like how the center is, white center is weak, right? It's not a strong center. It's not a strong center at this point. Okay, anyway, so that is it. So history would have it that Botvinnik would go on, to face Petrosian in 1963. Botvinnik would lose his title, and this would be the last time Botvinnik would play for the World Championship. Now, as the loser of the World Championship, he was automatically seeded into the next candidate cycle. But guess what? Botvinnik retired from competitive chess, and that's why you never see any candidates matches with Botvinnik. Botvinnik either played for the world title or he didn't play. So um, the only thing you see with Botvinnik is he played in the 1948 tournament at The Hague, which was decided to which was played to determine the world championship after Alexander Alekhine had died. So other than that, you don't see Botvinnik in any type of candidates matches like that. So he declined to play in the next cycle, and guess what? Both Keres and Geller got to play in the candidates match. In the candidates tournaments anyway. So this match was kind of like unnecessary given the big scheme of things because both of them got to play. But nobody could tell the future at the time, so they had to play, and it was an exciting match. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little bit of chess history and enjoyed the games. Please like and subscribe and comment and suggest and keep it positive, of course. You know, sometimes people leave a message, trying to say stuff that's unnecessary, like, oh, this happened in 1963, not 1962. Like they never make a mistake or typing errors. It's like aggravating. But anyway, all you positive people out there, love y'all. Thank you for the support. We're going to keep going. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Oh, please donate, man. If you had like, a 50 cent dollar, something like that. Chess lessons are expensive. Those of you who have coaches know what it is, even buying books, videos, all this stuff. Like I said, all this stuff is free from the heart. And just trying to give you guys the best content out there. So please like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys on the next video.